Hello everybody, welcome back to my movie review series. Today we'll be discussing Disturbia. I think the Golden Globes were on yesterday or 2 days ago or something. Didn't watch them. But it'd be really cool to be able to get into the film industry to some extent again, whether it's being the janitor or being an actual movie critic. This is now my 230th, give or take, reviewing of a movie script or a TV show. But if you're new here, what we do is I will read you the logistics provided of the movie, or the logistics of the movie as provided by Google. Then I will give you my grade, A to F, the American school grading scale. After I give my grade, if you've not seen the movie would like to, you're going to shut off the video because there will be spoiler alerts. We'll be discussing the plot synopsis and any character development, and any similar movies or major themes. So Disturbia was released in 2007. It is a thriller slash mystery movie. It has a runtime of 1 hour and 45 minutes. 6.8 out of 10 on IMDb, 70% liked it on Rotten Tomatoes. You can watch it on Hulu. I caught it for free on either AMC or TNT yesterday, just as a structured broadcast. But it says, a troubled high school student becomes convinced he is living next door to a wanted serial killer. Struggling to come to terms with the death of his father, the teen lands himself in hot water after a fight with a teacher and is put under house arrest. During his domestic confinement, he begins to spy on his mysterious neighbor, believing him to be a murderous psychopath on the run from the authorities. Did $118 million at the box office and is rated PG-13, starring Shia LaBeouf and Sarah Romer. So what do I think? I'm a fan of Shia LaBeouf as an actor. As an actual person, he seems pretty unhinged. But I enjoy him as an actor. Again, I really liked him in The Transformer. I really liked him in Eagle Eye. Really liked him in Holes. Really liked him in Disturbia. So this movie, thriller mystery, rated PG-13. I thought it was fun. Certainly when I watched it, 2007, the girl in the movies was about my age, probably about that time. Maybe a little older. But certainly the actual thriller aspect of watching the neighbor and discovering the serial killer, I thought the suspense, again for a PG-13, suspense and the horror elements were decent, as well as the relationship between Shia LaBeouf and the female lead, Sarah Romer. So that was cute romance, decent thriller, entertaining, certainly, so I'm going to give it a B+. Higher end of entertaining. So I recommend this one if you've not seen it and would like to. You're going to want to shut off the video because there will be spoiler alerts. So the movie opens up and you meet Cale Brecht, who is played by Shia LaBeouf. He is fishing with his dad Daniel. They're doing some fly fishing, having some father-son bonding, and then they get in the car to come home, and someone cuts them off or switches lanes real quick, and they get into a car accident. The car flips over, and they're both kind of injured in the car, and then another truck plows into them on Daniel's side, killing Daniel. And so PG-13, no gore or anything in this movie really, but Daniel's now dead. So Cale is now in school. They're getting ready for summer break. Cale has a good friend, Ronnie. They're in Spanish class, and Ronnie's giving his presentation or his speech demonstration or whatever, and then it's Cale's turn. And so Cale clearly hasn't done his homework or practiced much, and Senor Gutierrez is like, give us your speech. And so he does very poorly, and then the teacher's like, what would you do, what would your father think if he was here? And so then Cale turns and punches him. And so very similar kind of setup in the same as like Never Back Down, where he's really triggered by the death of his father. And so after that, Cale is in court. He gets sentenced to 3 months house arrest. You meet Detective Parker. I think it's Viola Davis, I believe. Yeah, but she is the detective, and she's she puts the ankle monitor on him. It costs the family $12 a day in charges to operate it, and he is now confined to his house for the summer. So again, PG-13, so it's kind of a lighter tone with some teen romance, and so it's kind of a lighter thriller, which I thought had a good overall tone and setting to it. After that, he starts spying on the neighbors. His friend Ronnie is out at, I think he goes to Korea or something during the summer and doesn't come back. Like he's a major role in the character, but he's away when Cale initially gets put on house arrest. And so he spies on the neighbors. He realizes there's probably some 8 and 9-year-olds watching some porn in the yard or in the house across the street. Mike Turner mows his lawn a couple times a day, but it doesn't really notice anything besides that. And then you meet Ashley. So Ashley moves in, again, same age as Cale in the movie, or at least, portrayed to be. And so immediately Cale is enamored by Ashley, definitely finds her really cute. And he's watching her go swimming and just basically being a peep show, kind of. But he's just watching people from his confinement in his house. His mom cuts off his Xbox, cuts off his iTunes, and so that's when he starts doing that kind of just like the spying or just like the observation of people around. And so Ronnie comes back from Korea. Cale introduces him to the 3 or 4 different families and houses that he's been watching, and they just kind of catch up. And so Ronnie also is very enamored by Ashley's appearance. She's swimming, and they're taking in the view, and Ronnie gets too excited and gets too close to the glass and kind of like slams the binoculars on the glass. And so they go kind of like duck down to like hopefully they didn't see him. But they look back up and they see Ashley has definitely seen them watching her swim. So Ashley puts on some clothes and comes over and the doorbell rings. And so I guess before this, Cale he has the neighbors that are the kids that mess with him. Put a flaming bag of dog poop on the stoop on his front porch. He stomps it out, gets poop all over his foot, chases them down the street, and gets past his home confinement area. And so the police officer comes. The officer that is kind of in the area is Gutierrez also, which is the cousin of the teacher that he punched. And so Cale gets kind of arrested or kind of gets a first-time warning. But Ashley, as she's moving into the house, sees him on the ankle monitor and sees him getting problems with the police. And so back to the current scene where Ashley knocks on the door and goes into the house and they kind of meet officially for the first time. Or they might have met before, it doesn't really matter. But then Ashley sees the binoculars, is kind of just playing with him, is like, let's have a stakeout and see what's up. And so at this point, Cale does see Mr. Turner drive into his garage with this blue kind of Mustang or something with a dented fender. Kind of the next day or two, it's fixed. That's when Ashley sees it. It's like, I see the blue fender, but it's fixed. And so at this point, they're starting to, talk about these rumors of this person. There was a serial killer in Texas or wherever. And they found, 5 to 10 bodies still in the house, like the house walls and basements and secret compartments. And so now they're starting to rumor that Mr. Turner is the serial killer. And so they're going to have a stakeout. They watch for a while. Cale and Ashley kind of start to have a little romantic tension going on. And they're becoming more friendly. And so Ronnie kind of falls asleep on the stakeout after they order pizza. Cale and Ashley kind of bond for a little bit. Ashley decorates his ankle monitor, and Cale walks Ashley home. They're next door neighbors, but just walks her out to her yard. And so he gets denied a kiss there, but there's definitely some tension going on. And then the next day shows up, and basically they are going to just continue the stakeout of Mr. Turner. And so they are, I think this happens, I'm going to miss the order, I watched this yesterday morning, but regardless, I guess kind of missing the scene order, but Ashley throws a party, they're hanging out on the stakeout one day, well actually I think they have to run in with Mr. Turner first, and so they're staking him out again, and Cale wants Ronnie to break into his car to get the code for his garage door. They see him pulling this big bag and they think it might be a body or something into his garage. And so Ashley is tailing Mr. Turner, who's at the store shovel shopping, and Ronnie breaks into the car. He's all nervous. Cale is quarterbacking it from his home confinement with a walkie-talkie and some binoculars. But Ronnie's able to get the code for the garage, and Mr. Turner spots that Ashley is watching him, and so Ashley kind of freaks out, I don't know where he went, and then as she's pulling out her car from like the parking garage at the mall or wherever shopping center, he's standing right in front of her and stops her, gets in the car, and gets real close and was like, I don't like to be watched. I just want some privacy. Not really threatening her, but kind of threatening her. So obviously Ashley, Ronnie, and Kale are all kind of freaked out. There's another scene where Mr. Turner shows up in his kitchen. Kale is like filming through the windows, and the flash goes off on the camera. Mr. Turner brings home this redheaded club girl, and Ashley gets called home, but Kale's watching. And at first it just looks like a normal date night. Then the girl seems to be running around, and then later that night he sees the club girl get back into a car and leave. But regardless, he had flashed the camera, and Mr. Turner had saw it. When Kale again looks back up and sees him looking directly at him, and then the next day he shuts the door of his refrigerator, and Mike Turner's right there, and Kale picks up a knife. It's like, well, how did you get in my house? And Mr. Turner had been helping his mom, Julie, bring in the groceries. So again, Mr. Turner's kind of, saying he knows what's going on, and it's not a good idea. And so Kale's kind of freaked out, but regardless, they all kind of like, maybe we should drop it or whatever. And so Ashley has this party, and Kale can't go because obviously he's confined, and he kind of like has a nickname for one of the minor characters that's a girl at their school who they call Crazy. And so Ashley's having her party. Kale's not liking it because Ashley's getting hugged on, and he's kind of a little bit jealous. And so he blasts some kind of like slow music. Ashley gets flustered and climbs up into his room and tries to unplug his iPod. And it's 2007, so it's one of like the iPod Classic ones. And the cute romance scene is like, he talks about how he sees her like watching, like looking in the mirror, seeing who she really is, or reading books on her on the roof of her house. And so that's when Ashley and Kale's relationship or romance really kind of comes full bore, and so they make out pretty aggressively there. But Ashley thought it was really cute or intimate that Kale noticed her humanity, I guess. And so that's kind of going on. That happens. Again, I'm not sure exactly the scene order, but regardless, after Ronnie had snuck into the car and got the code later that night, he comes running back to Kale's house, extremely freaked out. And so Ronnie, turns out he had left his phone in the car when he was breaking into it. And so now they have to retrieve Ronnie's phone so he doesn't get caught. So they break into the garage this time. They open up with a code. Ronnie gets in there. But then the garage door closes. Kale is just like monitoring, looking for movement in the house from his house. And he's like, you're good, Ronnie, no one's moving. But then they crack open the garage door, 3 or 4 feet, not all the way. But then someone closes the door back down. And so Kale loses contact with Ronnie. He's not sure where he's going. And so Kale freaks out, thinking that his friend's in trouble. And so takes a baseball bat and runs over to Mr. Turner's house. And is now definitely acting like trying to actively activate the police, or doesn't care if the police comes because he thinks his friend's in danger. So Gutierrez comes with another police officer. Kale is adamant that his friend is in Mr. Turner's house. Mr. Turner's just like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And so Kale kind of gets in trouble or gets arrested, but he's like, look, they have, there's a body in the garage, The police do investigate. Turns out the body that was in there was like a roadkill from a deer. And so Mr. Turner still done nothing wrong, but now he is, Mr. Turner and Kale are definitely completely crossing the lines of, Kale knows Mr. Turner's up to something, Mr. Turner knows he has to kind of neutralize the threat. And so the police leave once again, and then Ronnie's in Kale's house. He actually did escape Mr. Turner's house, and he was just kind of hiding in Kale's closet, and kind of scares him, sends him a text saying, look at your TV, and shows him like kind of slumped over pretending to be dead. But he's really just in the Twinkie. At the very beginning, Kale builds a Twinkie tower, and Ronnie's kind of sitting right next to it, so Kale's like, oh, he's in my house now too. But regardless, Ronnie's freaking out, and they're all kind of like, what do we do now? Ronnie goes downstairs, and Mr. Turner has now entered Cale's house and has hit Ronnie over the head with a baseball bat. Mrs. Julie, Cale's mom, also goes over to Mr. Turner's house to try to stop Mr. Turner from pressing charges, but Mr. Turner assaults her too. Now he's going to try to clean up the neighborhood, or clean up the witnesses. And so Julie, the mom, gets hit with a shovel or with a bat or something. Ronnie gets hit with something, or a bat or a shovel or something. But he's now he attacks Cale. Cale gets tied up. Ashley comes over now and kind of like jumps on Mr. Turner. There's a fight scene in the Cale house. Cale and Ashley are able to escape, jump off the roof into the pool at Ashley's house. But now Ashley gets to safety, and Cale is like, I have to go help my mom. So he picks up, like, he marked the territory of where he can go, the area he can extend to for his ankle monitor. So he has like a hedge trimmer. He picks up the hedge trimmer and goes to Mr. Turner's house. So I guess the big plot development that I didn't get to, the reason Cale is absolutely certain is when Ronnie gets back and he comes out of the closet with the Twinkie thing. He has the footage, and when Ronnie had dropped the camera that had zoomed in on the vent of the floor, and he could resolve the visual that was some woman with her head cut off. And so that's what Mr. Turner had originally seen and tied Cale up for after he'd assaulted the mother. And so after that, Cale goes back into Mr. Turner's house to try to save his mom. The Gutierrez, the officer, gets notified again, but since he's eating a burger and since it's been a false alarm twice, he's like, I'll get to it when I get to it. And so Cale is able to find these different rooms in the house. He finds a bunch of bodies. He falls to like the rotten floorboards and falls into like this watery pit with a couple bodies in it. But he's able to find his mom. So she is tied up in the basement, not killed yet. And so Officer Gutierrez, there's another iconic scene from this movie where it's like, at least for 7th graders at the time, the lightning kind of strikes. It's a rainy day, and Mr. Turner's like standing right outside the window behind the glass or something as Cale is moving throughout the house trying to find his mom. And so another fight scene in the basement. Well, I guess Officer Gutierrez responds, and I'm not sure if it's implied he's killed or not, but he's like walking through the house, and Mr. Turner's hiding behind a wall, clearly about to assault him or to do something about it. So I don't really know if you get clarification on what happens to him, but regardless, there's a fight scene between Cale, his mom, and Mr. Turner, and he's able to impale Mr. Turner with the garden scissors, or the garden hedge trimmers, or whatever they're called. And so Mr. Turner is now dead. He is neutralized. Cale, Ronnie, and Ashley are all fine. So is the mom. In PG-13, I'm assuming Officer Gutierrez is okay as well, but you're not really sure. And then the resolution to the movie is them, Ashley and Cale, getting some payback on the neighbors from across the street for this little friendly neighborhood war of putting poop on the door and chasing the kids and blah blah blah. And so Cale calls the mother of the children while they're watching porn and was like, I see you, ma'am, that you're currently actively using your adult subscription model. And she's like, what are you talking about? He's like, yep, it's on the second floor of your house, this room. And so the mom goes in there and busts the kids for watching porn. So that's really the resolution of the movie. Again, overall, I thought the tone was fun, playful, and a good suspense thriller. Really liked the romance. I really liked Shia LaBeouf, and I thought the plot development was solid throughout the entire movie. No really off-putting characterizations, and none of the scenes were really slow or out of place for me. So overall, B+. I thought it was entertaining and I enjoyed it. So thank you for watching my movie review of Disturbia, and I will see you on the next one.